Welcome to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft, welcoming you to our live, local, 5 days a week TV, radio, and streaming show looking into all things Michigan. Today, we'll be talking to a number of people about a whole host of fun and interesting stuff, as well as important news stories here in the state of Michigan. Let's get into today's headlines on our website, civiccentertv.com. On our local news page, our top story comes from MLive's John Tunison. After 24 hours and additional hours, including that, since the passing of the 70-mile-per-hour winds wielding thunderstorm, about 300,000 bill payers remain without power in southeastern Michigan. That's just the bill payers, not the people affected by those bills, which can be a couple, it could be several people per household. As of Tuesday night at about 9 p.m., that number was about 230,000 bill payers for DTE Energy and 70,000 bill payers for Consumers Energy. DTE estimates that about 80% of the outages will be resolved by the end of the day on Thursday. Residents affected by the outages can apply for reimbursement from the utility at newlook.dteenergy.com. You navigate over to their outage center and find their reimbursement page, or just search DTE Energy reimbursement and it'll take you to another page on the website. Just look for the one that has the link newlook.dteenergy.com, where you can get your astounding reimbursement of $25. That's definitely going to cover all of your lost wages, potentially if you work from home, or all that food in your refrigerator that went bad. Especially for those in those lower income situations where that could be the difference between them being able to pay their other bills, including their electrical bill, or put food on the table. That $25 really goes a long way. Glad we can pay those executives an exorbitant amount of money, and we should definitely allow that rate hike of 8.8%. That's a great idea. So many people still frustrated, obviously. I mean, last night I got mine back at about 9:30. Walk into my apartment, power's still out. Take care of a few things, put my things away. All of a sudden, I hear a buzzing sound. It sounds mechanical from around my kitchen area. It sounded like my refrigerator. It was my refrigerator. I flip on a light, and boom, it's back. I happened to be in an area that was highly congested with outages. It was in one of those, if you look at their outage map, those red blocks with 2,500 or more people that are in that area. And that's one of their priority areas they take care of first. Areas of priority that have either a danger to the public because of a downed line. It could be a fire hazard. There's a tree down on the line, something like that. Then they move on to medical facilities or people who are in situations where they need their power to run certain medical operations in their own homes for their own health. Those are priorities. Then from there, they go to the highest volume of outages per area, and they work on those areas to get them back. That's why. But there's still several thousand, hundreds of thousands of people that are out of power. It's been well over 24 hours. The communication, frankly, on this, I don't think I'm stepping out of line by saying it's been awful from DTE. And this is another incident of this that's been repeated over the years. So definitely tons of frustration across the Metro Detroit area and southeastern Michigan as this utility, where there's really not many options, not exactly being great on their communication in terms of the timeline of this. This is nothing against those line workers, of course. They're doing a miracle of work out there, night and day, to get people's power back on, and they do it very, very effectively and very safely. It's not their fault that these systems that are in place, frankly, are not up to the standards that they should be up to. It's very questionable when people's power is out and when they have their lives severely affected by that power being out, that a reimbursement is offered to them at $25, which is not even a significant fraction of most people's electrical bills per month. And then on top of that, they want to go to the Public Service Commission at the state level and propose an 8.8% rate hike, about $10 a month per bill payer. I don't know. Seems a little bit on murky ground. Also making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com on our local news page from Nusrat Rahman at the Detroit Free Press on the COVID-19 front. Michigan reported just over 19,000 new COVID-19 cases in the past week, averaging just over 2,700 cases on the daily and adding a total of 129 deaths. The state had a positivity rate with reported tests at about 20.3% as of Monday, out of 10,779 tests that were reported to health authorities. That is the latest numbers. Of course, those were reported once a week now from the state level. And we'll, of course, have those updates for you on the Megacast as soon as we get them from these news outlets and from the state on civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Finally making headlines there today from the Detroit News' Beth LeBlanc. A federal judge turned down the Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson's request to curb a lawsuit challenging maintenance of the state's qualified voter file, most notably about removing deceased individuals from the voter roll. The lawsuit was filed by the Public Interest Legal Foundation out of Indianapolis. Yes, that's Indianapolis, Indiana, not Indianapolis, Michigan, with the goal of seeking to promote the integrity of elections in Michigan and other jurisdictions nationwide. That is in quotations. They said, quote, seeking to promote in the integrity of elections in Michigan and other jurisdictions nationwide, and closed quote. In a response to the federal judge's ruling, Secretary of State Benson said that her office would not comment on an ongoing case, but did state, quote, Michigan's voter registration list is maintained in accordance with all applicable state and federal laws, and our system has protocols in place to ensure its integrity, and closed quote. For reference, federal law requires inactive voters to be removed from the qualified voter file after missing 2 consecutive statewide federal elections. Ongoing case, very interesting and immensely important to the future of our elections here in the state of Michigan. You got to get this right for the integrity of our elections, regardless of the politics. And if there's something that can be cleaned up in the process, that's great. If that's what comes out of this, that's awesome. If there isn't anything, then that's fine too. That only says that our already strong and secure process is strong and secure enough to maintain itself at this moment in time. But if there's something that can be cleaned up, and that is found in that case, that's only of benefit to the people of Michigan. Either way you go on this, it's all about improving our state's elections. All those headlines on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page, as well as those ever helpful links to updated info on COVID-19 on the daily from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Wednesday edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, we'll talk Labor Day weekend travel with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation's Otie McKinley. This is the Megacast.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
Fire Prevention Week is just around the corner. Join volunteer, part-time, and on-call firefighters at this year's Fire Open House. Catch up on your fire safety knowledge with live demonstrations and hands-on activities. Chat with local businesses and resources about fire prevention, see some familiar faces, fight future fires, and make some new friends. The West Bloomfield Fire Open House, October 2nd from noon to 3 p.m. at Fire Station 1 on Orchard Lake Road.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily 1-hour TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. Well, summer's coming to a close. Our last fun weekend to cap off the unofficial end of the season is, of course, Labor Day weekend coming up this weekend, and Michigan is sure to be buzzing with tourism and travel for many who take some extra time out of the office over the next few days. Here to talk about what some of those plans may be or can be is Otie McKinley, Media and Communications Manager with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Otie, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. How are we doing today?
Doing all right. Power's out for a lot of us here in southeastern Michigan, including our studio here. So, you know what? I'll admit, it's a little bit warm in here. We have a backup power on that does not include the AC, and I am a terrible decision maker, clearly, because I'm wearing a pullover. But other than that, you know what? I'm just trying to soak in the last bit of the summer warmth, Otie.
That's right. You're going to bring it forth past the Labor Day holiday weekend and get ready for a great fall season.
Yeah, I know, if I store a little bit of that warmth, maybe the winter won't be as cool and snowy as it's being predicted to be by some outlets. But that being said, let's keep it on the summer information for now and the fall as we look forward to the next season here in Michigan for travelers. Labor Day weekend, big weekend for travel in a normal year. It seems like we're in a more normal year than we have had in the past several. So what's the expectation for Labor Day weekend in terms of in terms of the predictions for travel across the state of Michigan, for people coming into Michigan from other states for travel and tourism this weekend?
Yeah, this is historically one of the biggest weekends for travel. As families are getting their kids back into school, it's that one last blast to be able to enjoy some of the things that Michigan affords. So we're anticipating it being a busy travel weekend, which is great for our communities across the state and the small businesses in which kind of help lead that charge in the tourism industry.
And so one of the most celebrated events for Labor Day weekend in the state of Michigan, something that people all across the state and all across the region even travel to Michigan for, is, of course, the Mackinac Bridge Walk. It's back again this Labor Day weekend. What's the expectation for that in terms of the turnout? Because it has in the past had a massive turnout. In the last few years, that's been able to go on. It still had a very solid turnout. But are you expecting that to kind of have a resurgence this year, given where we're at with COVID-19?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all indications point towards this being a big bridge walk year. As you mentioned, the last few years, it hasn't had the numbers, which understandably so. But with travel increasing this year, the tourism industry, growing upon the past few years, certainly we expect a lot of people taking the hike across the bridge.
For those that maybe aren't going to go so far north to do the Mackinac Bridge Walk or to go to Mackinac Island or other places in and near the UP, what are some other great places for people that maybe are taking a sudden Labor Day weekend trip with their family? They say, you know what, we got a long weekend. Let's go do something fun. Let's stay right here in the state of Michigan, but maybe not make this a quick staycation. What are some fun places people can go kind of quickly, kind of just all of a sudden this Labor Day weekend and have a really great time in the Great Lakes state?
Yeah, well, from the Detroit area, you can shoot over to Dearborn, which is a quick trip. And you can make that a day trip or you can make it a weekend trip and enjoy the Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation, which is a gotta do if you've never been. But if you want to spend the night, make the next day out of it and go visit Greenfield Village, where you've got the opportunity to step in the lab where Thomas Edison had his light bulb moment. And take a ride in a Model T, just kind of walk through that time period. It's a great experience. And then also sticking on the Ford path, go tour the Ford Rouge factory tour, where you get to watch the iconic F-150 being built in real time right in front of your eyes. And again, you can make that a weekend trip or you can, make it a day trip. So again, not too far from downtown Detroit. But if beach towns is kind of more your thing, again, you don't have to go too far. just shoot up through Port Huron, follow M25 along the eastern coast of the Thumb, going through Lakeport, Lexington, all the way up through and around the tip of the Thumb into Port Austin and Caseville. Great beach towns, great restaurants, great small businesses, shops, cafes. I mean, you can make that a day trip or make it a long weekend trip.
Yeah, for those baseball fans, you mentioned Dearborn going to Greenfield Village. You got the old-time baseball game out there. You'll probably see a lot better baseball there than you will from our Detroit Tigers anytime soon.
Be optimistic. Be optimistic.
I'm trying to be optimistic. Hey, Alavila's gone. That's a good step forward. Let's see what they can do over the next couple of years. Chris Ilitch has a lot to prove in that front office, but that's a whole other story. That's not travel. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to keep it positive and talk about the great things we can do here in the state of Michigan. One of the favorite locations as we go back up north is Tahquamenon Falls. There was a really interesting article this week from the Detroit News that kind of covered some changes that happened last fall at Tahquamenon Falls to make the park overall more accessible, or certain parts of the park more accessible. And there was a little bit of controversy as a 142-foot bridge was installed last September that connected the main part of the park to a 7-mile island that was 7-acre island across the way. But a year later, that controversy has kind of gone to the wayside, and really there's been a ton of positives with that. How, in terms of travel in the state of Michigan, particularly for all of our great parks, how important is it for focusing on the future, adding accessibility into these parks to make them easier for people, particularly with disabilities, to access, but even then, beyond that, to make the parks at large easier for people to navigate and have a greater day of travel?
Well, I think it's incredibly important, right? Our goal, in conjunction and partnership with both MDOT, the DNR, and the Travel Michigan team, is to make destinations across our state accessible. And so however we can do that to ensure that more and more people can enjoy the resources that the state affords, it's a win-win for everybody. So it's incredibly important and something that we're going to continue to work on.
We're joined by Otie McKinley from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation on the Megacast. Of course, you can find a lot of information on traveling all across the great state of Michigan by visiting michigan.org. As they say, your trip begins at michigan.org. Find all these different great locations, including some fun things you can do on a quick decision or on a little bit of planning as you head into Labor Day weekend. Otie, another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye. Any other advice for Labor Day weekend travel this year in the state of Michigan, or other topics of importance that we haven't discussed today?
Well, as we are getting awfully close to the holiday weekend, I strongly encourage people to, if they are going to make a day trip or a weekend trip, call ahead, get a reservation, book a room, do whatever you need to do. Ensure that tickets are available if you are going to go to a ticket mandated place, just to ensure that when you get there, you can enjoy what your intended efforts were. We don't want anyone to go to a destination and not be able to get in because of just it being too busy, and then that's just not a good experience for everyone. So call ahead, and don't forget, please remember to be kind to the folks that are helping make your vacation more memorable. Those in the service industry have been taxed, and some businesses still remain understaffed, but the employees are doing everything they can to make your experience memorable, and just remember to be kind.
Otie, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You as well. Your Labor Day weekend travel plans in the state of Michigan begin at michigan.org. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Oakland County Monkeypox Taskforce, affirmations, and issues affecting our local LGBTQIA+ community with Dave Garcia. This is the Megacast.
Mark your calendars for the 11th annual Family Fun Night at West Bloomfield High School. Stop by on Friday, September 16th at 5 p.m. for an evening of free, fun activities as we honor our military, police, and fire heroes. Plus, stick around to see Laker football take on Clarkston at 7 p.m. To find out more, scan the QR code on your screen or visit wbsd.org/community/family fun night.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Connect with local leaders, philanthropists, and more. The Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce presents the 2022 Leadership Breakfast. Join the Chamber for a morning of insight with guest speaker Laura Graneman, with the whole event emceed by Fox 2 News anchor Roop Raj. Join your local businesses at the Wabeat Country Club September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Order your tickets by September 6th at westbloomfieldchamber.com/breakfast. We'll see you there.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily 1-hour TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. With over 150 cases of monkeypox in Michigan, Oakland County's frontline efforts to get ahead and take precautions against the virus have been a priority in recent months. Joining us now on the MAGAcast to talk about that and more is Dave Garcia, Executive Director of Affirmations, an LGBTQIA+ advocacy group out of Ferndale, who is also serving on Oakland County's new Monkeypox Task Force. Dave, thank you for joining us today.
Morning.
Appreciate having you on. First time we talked was quite literally the day that the Monkeypox Task Force had been announced in Oakland County. In the weeks and in the months since that has passed, what has been some of the work that's been done on the task force to combat monkeypox here in Oakland County?
Well, we've been doing a lot of work, actually. Not only are we meeting every week, just yesterday we had vaccination clinic here at Affirmations. We had over 60 people. This is a handful. We've probably had 5 or 6 now. Every single clinic that we've had, we've run out of vaccine, and we have 3 more next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday here at Affirmations. So, right now we are doing our best to get more vaccine into the state of Michigan, and then also spread across the entire state, and especially here in Oakland County, where we're seeing both in Wayne County and Oakland County, the numbers are the largest in the state as well. So, we're doing our best to get people vaccinated and get more vaccine here. Most of the vaccine is still coming from Denmark. The national stockpile has gone to Los Angeles and New York. So we need to do a better job of getting more vaccine here. Every time we have a vaccine clinic, we run out. And so, as you have probably heard, we've moved from a regular shot or a subcutaneous shot to now the intradermal shot, just under the skin, much like a TB shot. That is to spread the vaccine. Every vial now can be 5 shots if done correctly. And if we can spread that vaccine out, then that gives us some time to get more vaccine into the country, either from Denmark or the new contract that the federal government has just signed with a manufacturer actually out of Grand Rapids, which should bring another 3-point-some million shots into the country to be able to be disseminated. So if we can do those things correctly, and if we can spread the vaccine out now, then the Calvary is coming. But we need more vaccine, and we need it soon.
So, in terms of communication between the county executive's office, the Monkeypox Task Force, and the federal government, in terms of when that cavalry may be coming, when that additional vaccine output may be coming to Oakland County to be used in some of these at-risk communities for monkeypox, has there been any timeline put on that in terms of when another rush of this vaccine can make its way to Oakland County?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, let's just take what I just said about the new contract with Grand Rapids. So that in best case scenario would be anywhere from 90 to 120 days. And that's best case scenario before that starts to hit the streets, so to speak. Now, the Michigan State Health Department has said that hubs, because remember that when the vaccine gets into our country, then the federal government gives it to the state health departments, and then they decide how to disseminate that throughout their state. Michigan has a handful of hubs throughout the state of Michigan. Oakland County Health Department is one. So is Wayne County Health Department, or I'm sorry, Washtenaw County Health Department. But to give you some guidance, the entire Upper Peninsula doesn't even have a hub. So how are we getting the vaccine into rural areas throughout our state and in the Upper Peninsula? Well, the state of Michigan has said folks like Oakland County who are going through the vaccine and getting a lot of vaccinations out, like Affirmations, we can ask another hub if they're sitting on supply to send it over our way. Well, that's good in theory, but when we call Washtenaw County Health Department and say, hey, you guys are sitting on some vaccine, can you send it our way? Well, they've got the students coming to the University of Michigan. So they're very cautious about what that might look like. And then imagine all the universities across the state of Michigan, much less the little kids coming back to school now that it's fall. So I think people are very concerned about how this might spread, and they're very protective of their vaccine supplies because we are in such short supply. But in some cases, we have had other hubs send vaccine to Oakland County because we are doing more vaccinations than most counties across the state.
And you've mentioned that a lot of these vaccine clinics that you've had at Affirmations, or all these that you've had so far at Affirmations in Ferndale, you've had an output of vaccine there to give to those in at-risk communities in our local area, and every single time you've ran out of vaccine. And that brings up a topic we've also discussed in the past on the monkeypox front, is that there is a significant number of these cases in the LGBTQIA plus community. And so there comes a couple of issues with that. A, how do you protect this community that is statistically at this time more at risk for contracting this virus, while also continuing to put out a messaging campaign that ensures not ensures, but informs the public that this is that while this is spreading at a greater rate in this particular community, this is not an LGBTQIA plus disease. This is a disease that can affect anybody that's making physical contact with another person. What's been done on that front from the county level to prevent some of the qualms from the past that we've had, particularly in the AIDS epidemic of the 80s?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Monkeypox has been around in Africa for a while now. It's not new. It's not like the COVID vaccine or the COVID virus. And so we've known about this, and in Africa, it's not primarily in the LGBTQ community. And so it got a foothold in our community here in the United States and is spreading in our community. So we have to be very honest about that with our community and trying to keep people safe. Let me give you an example. Right now, all indication is the virus remains in semen even after your lesions have healed for up to 6 to 8 weeks. And we don't know, meaning the CDC does not know just how contagious it remains after the lesions have healed in semen and saliva. And so we have to do a better job of communicating that to our community and to all communities, that even after your lesions have healed, you should be wearing a condom when having sex. And that's not perfect because, as you said, this is not just, this is a sexually transmissible disease. It is not it's not an STI. It can be transmitted through sex. Think of it like, the HIV virus, which you brought up, can also be transmitted through needle use, right? But one really good way to transmit HIV is through sex. And so monkeypox is easily transmissible through sex. but it doesn't mean that that's the only way. And it does not mean that it is a gay disease, because straight people have sex too, and straight people come into contact too. And if we do not get out ahead of this and stop it now and do our best and not allow homophobia or bigotry to get in the way, then hopefully we can get a rein on this thing before it enters into larger and wider communities.
Yeah, it's prolonged physical contact that that is the primary way that this is spread, and that is across all communities and all different contexts, and so that's why it's really important to get that particular messaging out there. In terms of in the community that you are serving at Affirmations in the LGBTQIA plus community, given all those factors that go into the spread of this virus, that create those additional risk factors in that community in particular, what then goes into measuring risk? Who should be pursuing a vaccine at this time, and then who ultimately the county will be providing a vaccine to for monkeypox based on that measure of risk?
Well, right now, because the vaccine is in such short supply, the highest risk factors are men who have sex with men, multiple partners. Also extended to HIV positive folks, anybody that is on PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis makes sense. And we are now starting here at Affirmations the second shot. So you can get a second shot now at Affirmations. And the CDC is recommending that across the board. So if you are in those categories, then you should qualify for a second shot. Now, that second shot is likely going to be just under the skin, intradermal. And, these are terms I didn't even know about before monkeypox. So that is likely going to be the shot that you get, because we need to spread out the vaccine supply while we can, and while we pressure the federal government and others to get more vaccine into the state of Michigan.
We're joined by Dave Garcia, the Executive Director of Affirmations, located in Ferndale. He's also a member of Oakland County's Monkeypox Task Force, joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. More information from the Monkeypox Task Force can be found on the Oakland County Health Division's website. That is oakgov.com/health, oakgov.com/health for more information. Dave, got a few more minutes with you. I do want to talk on some LGBTQ issues in the state, or some news in the state. A recent report from Campus Pride's 2022 Best of the Best list had listed both the University of Michigan and Oakland University among some of the most LGBTQ-friendly campuses in the entire nation. In terms of creating a more inclusive environment and a more friendly environment for people of all different backgrounds, especially at the university level, how important is it in those particular communities, especially for those in the LGBTQIA plus community, for these universities, for students of all different backgrounds, to be putting forth these significant efforts to increase the friendliness of the campus, the inclusion in the campus for all these different communities, and making it not only a more welcoming environment and a more tolerant environment, but a more well-informed environment about the issues affecting these marginalized communities?
Well, I think it's really important. I think back to a good friend of mine, Jim Toy, who's over my shoulder here in my office, who passed away recently and started the Spectrum Center at the University of Michigan, the first LGBTQ student center at any university in the entire country. And back then, they could not, call it LGBTQ or queer or gay. It was something around the lines of, human sexuality and gender studies or something like that back then. And so, Jim just passed away after having started the Spectrum Center at the University of Michigan. And look, if we're going to attract and retain the top talent in the state of Michigan in all areas and all fields, then we have to be more inclusive, and we have to protect legally the rights of LGBTQ people here in the state of Michigan. Otherwise, they're going to go to California, they're going to go to Chicago, they're going to go to other areas where they can raise a family and where they can have a job and not be afraid of losing that job, and raise a same-sex, family without don't say gay laws in schools, for example. And look, in the state of Michigan right now, we are not far from Florida. We have conservative politicians in Lansing that are ready to go with Don't Say Gay, that are ready to go with anti-trans bills in sports, that are just waiting for an opportunity to introduce those bills, and they have the votes. The only thing that is keeping them from doing that right now is that we have a governor who will veto that. And so it is extremely important for us to be vigilant, to get out the vote, and to support any candidate. I don't care what party, as long as they are for equality for all people. We are not asking for anything more or less than what the straight community already has. That's it. That's all we want. Just simple equality, nothing more, nothing less. And if we don't get that in the state of Michigan, to your point, then students are going to go elsewhere. Why wouldn't they? Why would they stay here if they can't have equal opportunity? And so universities like the University of Michigan and Oakland and others who are doing their best to provide equal opportunity for their students, of course, they're going to be ahead of the game and extremely important for the future of our state.
Yeah, some other universities in Michigan that did partake in the index included U of M, Dearborn, Western Michigan, Michigan Tech, Grand Valley State, Wayne State, and Henry Ford Community College. Of course, those are not coming close to the 5-star rating on the index that Oakland University and the University of Michigan did attain. Dave, appreciate your time, appreciate your insight on all of these issues. Anything else that we haven't discussed today or other issues that you'd like to speak on before we let you go?
I would just say that those universities are also important for monkeypox because we need to get the word out across the state to those universities as those students are coming into school about how to get vaccinated. Those are congregate settings, and they could become a problem quickly if we don't get the vaccine. Not just the schools, assisted living facilities, the jails. Think about the jails and the prisons and all of the schools that the little kids are coming back to. So back to your monkeypox questions. We have to do a better job of disseminating the vaccine through congregate settings across the state.
Affirmations Executive Director Dave Garcia has been joining us on the Megacast. Dave, appreciate your time and appreciate your insight today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
More information can be found at oakgov.com/health. oakgov.com/health for those that are going back to school and want to keep up to date on information regarding monkeypox vaccines on their campus for the 2 largest universities at the state level. Those being, of course, Michigan State University and the University of Michigan, MSU Today, that msu.edu. Click on health. On that website, you'll get more information on the monkeypox situation at Michigan State University. It's even easier on the website from the University of Michigan. You go to their University Health Service website at uhs.umich.edu/monkeypox for information on monkeypox as well as vaccination programs at U of M Ann Arbor. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get an update on COVID-19, monkeypox, back to school health safety, and more for our little ones and our community in general from Dr. Jamie Taweel from Grand River Medical Associates. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Fire Prevention Week is just around the corner. Join volunteer, part-time, and on-call firefighters at this year's Fire Open House. Catch up on your fire safety knowledge with live demonstrations and hands-on activities. Chat with local businesses and resources about fire prevention, see some familiar faces, fight future fires, and make some new friends. The West Bloomfield Fire Open House, October 2nd from noon to 3 p.m. at Fire Station 1 on Orchard Lake Road.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily 1-hour TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. As we head out of summer and into the fall, not only are we keeping up to date on COVID-19 and keeping that in consideration as we head back into the office and send our little ones off to school, we are also focusing on a number of other health issues affecting our families and our community. And for many of us, it's that time to get those routine health checks. Here to help us clear up this mass of information and get our questions answered is Dr. Jamie Taweel, internal medicine specialist at Grand River Medical Associates. Dr. Taweel, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you so much for having me, as always. How you guys doing?
Doing all right this morning. How are you doing?
I'm getting there, slowly but surely.
Yeah, that seems to be the case for a lot of people today after the week we've had so far. Dr. Taweel, we are coming toward the unofficial end of summer with Labor Day weekend just a few days away. And with that, going into a new season, going into the fall, a transition point for the year. That's one of those times when a lot of people should be starting to think about some of those routine medical checkups, or maybe even do think about those routine medical checkups at this time of the year, especially for our kids. What are some of those checkups that parents and individuals that are adults just taking care of themselves as well should be considering getting at this point in time?
Well, general checkups are always important, whether or not you feel like you have anything wrong. The saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I strongly recommend that you guys get your routine physicals. You guys, you guys being the general public and as well as with kids, make sure vaccines are up to date, not just for COVID, but for all other things. As well as making sure that you're getting your age-appropriate screening. You want to get screened for colon cancer if you're above the age of 45, as the guidelines have just changed those rules. Make sure you're doing cardiovascular screening, lipid profile, make sure you're being checked for diabetes, all the preventable things that you're getting on top of. And if you're female, mammograms, male, prostate checks, et cetera, et cetera.
So for the kids in particular, as they're heading back into school this year with COVID-19, not as much of a factor in the return to school proper and procedurally, but certainly still a factor in the community, as well as spread of other diseases like monkeypox. What additional considerations should parents be making at this time as they're getting ready to send their kids back to school, and maybe even some additional checks that they can make when their kids are coming home to decide whether or not it is best for their kid and, of course, for the rest of the classroom and their school to send them to school the next day?
Well, I think a lot of it's going to be based on a few things. I think a lot of it's going to be based on what the school is going to recommend. I think individual districts are going to make recommendations based on the public health issues that are facing those particular districts. So I think mainly keeping in touch with your school and your administrators to get a good idea of exactly what the big concerns are in those pockets of areas. The other issue is to make sure that your children are up to date on all vaccines. And as monkeypox/smallpox vaccines become more available, I would recommend getting those, recommend staying up to date on COVID vaccines as appropriate. And, again, we're past COVID, but the general rule should remain. The one thing that should have changed for everybody is contact precautions, making sure you're washing your hands, making sure things like that are being done. You are, avoiding intimate contact with other people for prolonged periods of time that you're not fully aware of. Assume everyone has something. I don't mean to make a scare tactic by any means, but that's going to be the best way to be preventative in these situations.
We're joined by Dr. Jamie Taweel from Grand River Medical Associates on today's edition of the Megacast. On the COVID-19 front, case numbers continue to be pretty consistent in terms of how they're coming back from the test positivity that's reported to the state. It's really hanging around, the 15 to 20% mark. Last week, about just over 19,000 new cases reported at the state level. In your office and in our local area here, how much of a concern in the medical community as COVID-19 continues to be, as it still is spreading, but maybe isn't having as severe of an impact on the community as it's had in the past?
So COVID is still there, it's still around, and I'm still getting phone calls when people are getting it. I think as people are getting a little bit more lax, that's when it's kind of striking. My joke is that it's kind of like taxes. It's going to catch up to everybody. I feel that we did a really good job of slowing it down, but what we didn't do was stop it. And that's going to take a lot more, and it's going to take some time. The good news is the particular variant of COVID that's around these days is actually not as aggressive. So thankfully, we're not having hospitalizations, as insane as they were when things first started. People are getting COVID, but they are getting a much milder case of COVID. And I'm not suggesting that that's a you don't want to get sick by any means. And again, you want to make sure that you're keeping your comorbid conditions down. You're making sure your blood pressure is controlled, your diabetes are controlled, et cetera. But at the same time, the good news is that while COVID is pretty steady, deaths and hospitalizations are kind of leveling off, which is always a good thing. But I am seeing quite an uptick. It kind of has been coming in waves as far as I see. The vaccines seem to have been helping a little bit. It's not preventing catching it with this particular strain, but it is making sure that things are a little bit easier. Not to mention that the introduction of Paxlovid, which is a COVID pill that's used for the emergency use for treatment of COVID, has been helping patients as well. So if they do get COVID, they are able to get Paxlovid and hopefully help to reduce their symptoms and hopefully reduce any long-term effects.
We're joined by Dr. Jamie Taweel from Grand River Medical Associates on the Megacast. You can get in contact with his office and learn more information by visiting grandrivermedical.com, grandrivermedical.com for more information, or give them a call, 248-264-6169, 248-264-6169 for more information. Dr. Taweel, another concern in the local community, and we just talked about this recently on the show several times, has been monkeypox. It's not necessarily spreading at the rate that COVID-19 is spreading at this moment in time, or has spread in the past, but it's been a growing concern across the U.S. and around the world. It's spread in a variety of places. What sort of questions are you getting at this time from your patients, or better yet, what sort of advice are you giving your patients that may be concerned about monkeypox at this time to be aware of, and where that is at in our communities?
So the majority of the questions that I've been getting from my patients have been basically this: should I worry? and the answer is, you should always be concerned whenever there's something that's kind of becoming a bit of a resurgence. With regards to monkeypox, it is not spread as easily as COVID, thankfully. It does require a little bit more contact, fluid contact or sexual contact, et cetera. However, that doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all. Obviously, we're seeing cases rise. So maintaining very safe, appropriate contact precautions is going to help the majority of patients. And that's usually what I'm telling people. The other thing I'm telling people is to not discount any type of rash that they are getting. A lot of times these things are going misdiagnosed, and that's kind of how the spread is occurring. A lot of people are thinking that it's something different. Physicians sometimes are confusing it for sexually transmitted diseases, and the ability to get the test for it has been a little bit stymied. So that's kind of how this spread is occurring. But I am telling patients, as long as they're maintaining a little bit of awareness of anything new, rashes, and so forth, as well as maintaining appropriate precautions, safe sexual practices, hopefully this can be a little bit more blunted. And as the vaccine becomes more available to help reduce the severity of the disease, we can breathe a little bit easier, so to speak.
In Oakland County, you can get updated information on monkeypox from the Oakland County Health Division and the Monkeypox Taskforce by visiting oakgov.com/health, oakgov.com/health, or of course, contact your primary care provider for more information. We're joined by Dr. Jamie Taweel from Grand River Medical Associates on today's edition of the Megacast. Dr. Taweel, what are some other common issues that you're seeing maybe in your practice, or you're hearing from other doctors in the local community that are affecting patients at this time?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. The good news is that I'm seeing the regular routine stuff. A little bit of airway issues. I'm seeing a lot of patients that have just been developing a pretty nasty cough. COVID has been so mild that people are actually thinking that cases of COVID are common cold. So they're, believe it or not, unfortunately spreading it because they're not getting tested because they don't think it's anything. They feel that if it's COVID, it's going to be severe. And this is a pretty nasty allergy season, and the weather's not been pretty. So there has been some cases where they're getting recurrent sinus infections, bronchial infections. Those are the common things that I'm seeing at this time of year. Allergies and asthma, always definitely a big deal. But the good news is that it's getting a little bit, as the weather gets more temperate, things are starting to cool down a little bit. But now that school started, I'm about to see it bump right back up. So that's always going to be a fun thing. But just make sure that you're not discounting any minor thing. Contact your physician to see if there's any cause or concern for COVID testing. Don't downplay anything. Patients tend to do that quite often. However, I think it's getting back to business as usual, which is a good thing.
Joined by Dr. Jamie Taweel from Grand River Medical Associates. Dr. Taweel, anything else for us today before we let you go?
Stay safe out there and maintain healthy lifestyle as best as possible. Thank you very much.
grandrivermedical.com for more information. That's grandrivermedical.com. Appreciate it, Dr. Taweel.
Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. As always, you can keep up to date with everything that we're doing on the daily, including our full episodes and each individual interview by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast. There we have a list of every single one of our partnering TV, radio, and streaming outlets that join us every day, live and live to tape, so you can learn more about their other original programming all across the Great Lakes state, and of course, find us live in your local area. In addition, as I mentioned, you can find our full shows on demand on civiccentertv.com/megacast, as well as individual interviews. So if you really want to get an inside look on monkeypox, particularly how it's affecting our local LGBTQIA plus community, you can find our interview from today with Dave Garcia from Affirmations sometime mid to late afternoon today on civiccentertv.com/megacast, or other topics that we've discussed throughout the week that may be of interest to you. Otherwise, if you want to watch our full episodes, but maybe don't have a full hour to watch them straight through or to watch them live at 10 a.m. each and every day, you can find those also on demand on our Megacast page, civiccentertv.com/megacast. At the top of our screen, of course, you'll see on our website, civiccentertv.com, you'll see our local news link. You click on that right at the top of that page on civiccentertv.com/local-news. We have links to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in Lansing, and of course, the Oakland County Health Division in Pontiac for their specific information on COVID-19, local, state, and across the country, to keep you updated on where we are at in the COVID-19 pandemic. It's different than it was before. It's not as severe of a worry necessarily across the board as it's been in the past, but we're still in the middle of a global pandemic with COVID-19, and it's important to keep getting those updates at all different levels, and you can do that easily. civiccentertv.com on our local news page, right at the top of the page. Those links take you directly to those outlets' COVID-19 specific web pages, so you don't have to dig through the weeds of the internet to find information from reliable sources and experts on COVID-19. Also on those pages, you'll find links to stories from many different journalistic outlets across the state of Michigan. We pull those stories every morning before the Megacast. We review them very briefly in our first segment, but you can click on the thumbnail pictures or click on the headlines themselves. It'll take you to that full article. You can read the article, read their supporting materials, read their other articles as well, and keep up to date on everything happening in your community and across the Great Lakes state from many excellent journalists all across Michigan. And while you're on those websites, we highly encourage you, if you have the means to do so, to subscribe to those publications and support journalism in your local community. Also, making headlines on our website, and also something new for our programming this fall, is TV coverage of West Bloomfield Laker football. For those of you in the greater West Bloomfield area, on our flagship Civic Center TV, we cover every one of these games on Civic Center TV on 89.3 Lakes FM. We also have these games sometimes as the My Michigan TV Game of the Week on My. You can find all the information of where you can watch the L Boys play ball at civiccentertv.com/LakersSports, where you'll also find our weekly West Bloomfield football review show and preview show called This Week in Laker Football, where I talk to head coach Tyrese Grice about the previous week's game, talk to some of the players, get to know the team a little bit, the coaches as well we'll talk to this season, and of course preview the upcoming game. This week, Friday, home opener at the Swamp at West Bloomfield High School. It's the Lakers going up against the new OAA rival Harper Woods Pioneers from down a couple of leagues in the OAA, joining this league this year for the first time. And it's also their first game after their opponent in week one had to forfeit. And so they'll be opening their season while the Lakers open their home season at West Bloomfield High School. 7 p.m. kickoff, about 6:30 for pregame. And of course, get ready for that game with This Week in Laker Football on civiccentertv.com. Big thank you to all of our guests, and a huge thank you to our crew, Calvin Brown and Jared Clark at Master Control. And of course, the king of television, our producer, Larry Nyland. That's it for today's show. We'll return tomorrow with a new edition of the Megacast.